Yes, welcome back on the Bhoycie Bus, folks. It is Post Match Pish, and I don't think Pish is the right word for it today. That was much more like it. Celtic 5, Kilmarnock 1. And yes, we're here to talk about it as usual. And as you can see, yes, I am not Russell Boyce. He has still got some internet connections, so I'll be filling in for him today. But the man that we all do come to see on P.M.P is here, Terry. I'd imagine compared to last week when we did P.M.P, you're probably feeling a lot better this afternoon.
Aye, much better, Phil. Much more enjoyable, that one. I owe the manager an apology as well because I sat here last week and I hadn't seen his post-match and I said I couldn't be arsed listening to him talking pish, but he rightly threw them under the bus. It's been quite a refreshing week in Scottish football, really. I don't know. It feels like we're moving into an era where there might be honesty in Scottish football. Barry Ferguson threw his players under the bus. Brendan didn't pull any punches with his. Then we've a referee pulled up for consistent poor performance and decisions. So a refreshing, honest week and a refreshing return to form for Celtic. That first 25 minutes was absolutely superb. And I know it's kind of fizzled out a little bit after that, but I think there was enough in that for us just to reassure ourselves that when this team needs to get the job done, they are still capable of getting it done, and it just sets us up nicely now for next week, for the cup semi-final. And I'd been saying last week, you don't want too many performances like last week's or the Rangers one. Then you're going into a cup final and you're trying to flick the switch. But that today was reassuring that come next week, come when the games really count, I think we can count on this bunch of guys.
Yeah, definitely. No, they had a bit of purpose, a bit of zip about them from the off today. And as you say, first 25 minutes, half an hour, it was all electrifying. And then after that, it was just kind of a training exercise. One of those things, as we'll get on to talking about, I think is indicative of modern football, where there's that much energy expended in games, where if a game is pretty much won and the amount of fixtures teams play, I think it's a case of just, if I think if Kilmarnock had scored another goal, I think we would have seen us go up a couple of gears again. But it felt like even with their fluky goal, we're never really in any danger. But before we go any further, you know what to do, folks, before we get into it. You can do all that good stuff. You can hit the old like button, get involved in the comments section. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. Keep the bus in your life that wee bit longer. Hit the bell notification. You'll be notified when we're on the road. And, of course, still head to picesports.com and still use 12.5% off of your order. I'll use 18 Bus 1888, you get 12.5% off your order. That's what I meant to say there. I've done that so many times. I was going to flood my lines eventually with it. But anyway, that's what you do. Bus 1888, 12.5% off over at picesports.com. Great. That's all the good stuff out of the way. Let's get into it. So yeah, Terry, first thing we always kind of focus on was team selection. And there was a lot of brouhaha about the team selection going into this because Brendan had given off a lot of signals through the week, like you said, but a very refreshing outlook, essentially what he's been saying this week after what happened with the St Johnstone game. He was giving off a lot of signals that he really wasn't happy. Don't blame him. And talking about, I know he was talking about change as well in the summer, about, new players, definitely needing freshness as well. Unfortunately, there is no transfer window open right now. He can only deal with the cards that he has dealt right now. But he did still ring in a few changes. Jeffrey Schlupp dropped out and came Greg Taylor. Liam Scales came in. He had a bit of an interesting game, few wayward passes. But overall, yeah, just very much a typical Liam Scales performance. And both Jota and Nicholas Kuhn dropped for the game. So what did you make of the lineup when you saw it?
That was an interesting one. And the key sort of phrases that I pulled from the manager in terms of last week's game, he used the word soft again, either soft or weak. I think it was soft, it was the word that he used. And he said some players were looking for an easy game. Now, those are two very, very concerning sound bites. And I think when you look at the lineup today and you try to work out who was he referring to, I think the soft was Trusty. The soft was possibly Schlupp. The looking for an easy game might have been Schlupp, but it was definitely Kuhn. And I know that we briefly touched on it last week. I had thrown Jota into the mix just purely from the perspective that I felt slightly underwhelmed by what we've seen so far, and I feel as if there's a lot of goodwill for him because he's been here before and we know how good a player he is. But if you just paused and forgot the fact that we signed him for 6.5, took away the fact that he had 2 really good seasons, took away the fact that we sold him for 25. If that was a player that we'd just gone out and bought for 8 million in January, and he'd made the start that he would made, we wouldn't be saying he was setting the heather on fire. Now, that's not to say, I'm not saying he was bad or anything at all, but I just didn't feel he was anywhere near the level that we know that he's capable of. And I think that might be a little bit unfair, but the manager obviously agreed with that sentiment to a certain extent. I think Yang's the unlucky one, because it'd be interesting to see if he'd got a start had he been fit, because he's done more in some of his cameo appearances than Kuhn's done in lots of games since the turn of the year. But Forrest got the nod. Wasn't surprised. I expected him to come in. It was just a case of, would he come in on the right, would he come in on the left? Ada coming in, then shifted Maida out to the left again. I wasn't overly surprised that it was Kuhn and Jota both being out. Not surprised. Scales came back in again. I feel Nawrowski still can feel a little bit hard done by. But I know Scales had a few times where he misplaced passes today, but I think out of the 3 options, out of him, Nawrowski and Trusty, he probably just about looks the most comfortable in that position in all the aspects of the game, in terms of defending his 18-yard box, in the air, and bringing the ball out from the back. Again, Taylor coming in, based on last week's performance, probably not surprised there again either. Midfield is probably the one area I didn't think all 3 of the guys that played last week would remain in the team, but they did. And I have to say, I thought all 3 of them were really, really good today. Hatate showed us what Hatate can do. Hatate showed us what he's not been doing for long spells over the last 18 months. Engels, I thought, was very, very good today. Some excellent passing. The pass that played in Alistair Johnson for the assist for Maida's goal, I thought that was top class. Yeah. He was unlucky not to get a goal later in the game. But I know in the group chat there were a few people that probably were a bit surprised with some of the lineup. I wasn't really surprised by it, and I wasn't bothered by it. I thought Bernardo would get a game either at the expense of Engels or Hatate, but nothing else in there surprised me at all, to be honest.
Yeah, not even a sign of Bernardo at all today, which was bizarre. It's like, I thought, again, nice comfortable position, maybe get some minutes in the legs, but for whatever reason, and this is what Brendan Rodgers is paid for, he didn't come on. A couple of interesting insights there from inside the stadium. I don't know if this came across on the telly, but the pass you're talking about with the Engels one, there was a massive groan around the stadium when he didn't shoot. And then he played that nice wee slide rule pass. Obviously, Johnson crossed it. But right before it, because it kind of opened up for him, there was a massive groan in the stadium when he didn't shoot and he just passed it. But then, of course, it ended up being a goal. So it's like, wee bit of patience, wee bit of calm here, folks. And another thing as well from the stadium that I want to point out as well, there was a lot of Athletic Bilbao fans in attendance today.
Right, okay.
As I was walking at the stadium, I saw quite a lot of Athletic Bilbao fans, the red and white stripes. Now they were getting a lot of pictures of fans. They came over and they stayed on, because they're one of the clubs that we've got a good friendship with, and they picked a good game because nice sunny day and definitely the first half hour was fantastic. And I think we got off to a rip roaring start in terms of the purpose. There was a bit of zip about them, almost like they'd been kicked up the backside, Terry. I wonder how that happened. But look at what happened with the first goal as well. One of the most frustrating things that we talk about, again, it's not just a Celtic thing. Football nowadays is all about pass, ball retention, keep on trying to score the perfect goal. But see, sometimes when it opens up, and Jesus Christ, the amount of times when it does open up and we don't shoot. Remember early in the season, Callum McGregor was actually taking the initiative to shoot in these ones from outside the area. Rio Hatate opens up for him and he just unleashes, as I always like to say, a thunder bastard. And the funny bit was, this wasn't even the best goal of the day, but what a way to get it started. And also, as you said earlier on, talk about the game he had, because he was one of the ones last week where, again, it was like, with Hatate, when it feels like we're in the trenches, we're in a bit of a slog, he's like the type of player that doesn't pull you out, but there's what he's capable of. So that opened up so well for him. And yeah, when that ball was hit, it stayed hit. And what a way to open the scoring, Terry.
Yeah. Again, I think we touched briefly last last week about that electric start that Hatate when he came in with the goals from outside the box against Hearts and against Rangers, and that kind of was reminiscent of it the day where he picks the ball up. He plays a nice 1-2 with Greg Taylor, and again Taylor was popping up everywhere except left back, to be honest, and he's involved in the build up there. I felt when I seen Taylor bringing the child out onto the pitch and all, it kind of felt a wee bit like you know it does after you've won the league and you've presented with a trophy and the players have got their kids and all on. It's kind of like a wee bit of a strange one, and I think it probably just again is just another sort of real pointer to the fact that he's for the off. The only thing I was surprised about was he didn't try and pass the child back to Liam Scales, but no, Taylor had a good game today. Taylor had a really good game today. He plays that role really well, to be fair to him, and he was involved in quite a lot from an attacking perspective. Again, probably their goal comes from the left back side, and I'd need to look at it back, but I don't know if he was in and around that area. But good one for Hatate. Again, if he's a player that we can get back to some kind of form, then what an option for you in midfield. But great strike from him, and the start that we needed. 8 minutes, you're in front. We needed a goal to settle us down. We needed a goal to take any edge out of the crowd. And again, it's like a lot of these games. It's the opposite of last week. Whenever you concede an early one, you give the opposition something to defend, something to protect. But whenever you get that early one, you really, really break them. You break them because their whole game plan, what they've been working towards all week, what Derek McInnes's team talk all have been about is keeping it tight and keeping Celtic out for as long as possible. So for you to crack that within the first 10 minutes, it's just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I've seen it millions of times going to Celtic Park and these teams that come here and they just sit with 10 men behind the ball. You stick one away early, all the time wasting goes at the windy. And of course, we did get one in quick succession. The two just came along at once. Maeda at the back post, but as I said a few minutes ago, obviously the build up to it. Arnie Engels, a lot of fans had a moan and a groan when he didn't shoot after what Hatate had just done not long before. But no, he was right. He played a nice slide rule pass. Alistair Johnson read it perfectly and zipped it across the goal. Keeper fumbles it. I think it was a bit extra mash in the middle. And there's Dyson Maeda to get the tap in. And once again, another roaring rendition of Maeda's song Tequila. It's fantastic when that's scored. That's one of the best goal celebration tunes without a shadow of doubt. Every one of the fans are so into it. But yeah, it just summed up the atmosphere again, just what we needed, because the fans were scunnered going into this game. Let's be honest, there was a real malaise. It was so weird. I said it last night on the Friday Feeling with Johnny and with Liam. Like, this is a team that's going for their 6th treble in 10 years. We're so far ahead in the league. The title pretty much got one hand on the trophy, but the performances recently, there has been a bit of I don't know, it's just weird. A team, the fans shouldn't feel this way, but there's a lot of fans that did. That second goal so early in the game is exactly what you're looking for. And how many goals now, Terry, does that take Dyson Maeda up to for the year in all competitions? Like 34 or something?
I don't know how many he's on, but he's one clear, I think, at the top of the scoring charts. I think that right-hand side today, Phil, that Johnson looked much better. He was getting forward. He was getting involved. Engels on the right-hand side of the midfield trio. Again, I thought he had a lot better game. And I think just having James Forrest in there and a bit of endeavour, a lot of energy, it was just really noticeable that down that side there was a lot more happening than what we've seen in recent weeks.
Yeah, it was. Again, because I think with the Coons drop off in performance, it just had a knock on effect. Because we know how good Alistair Johnson can be. Again, he's another one that's good at getting up to the byline, getting crosses in. Our wingers tend to cut inside rather than hit the byline, but our fullbacks are more prone to it. But Johnson seems to have been, nullified in recent weeks as well. But I say he read that one really well with the Arnie Engels pass. In fact, when you think about it, the infamous goal that got Alan Muir essentially sacked was at Hibs, where again a similar pass by Engels in a similar sort of position just slips it in. Johnston crosses it back from the byline. So it seems to be a move did he like to pull off that one with the right fullback overlaps and gets on the end of it, and yeah, it worked perfectly. And there was Maeda to get the goal. Now, as obviously talked about, there was a few fans having a wee groan about the Engels not shooting initially, but for the third goal, there's another interesting observation. There was a little bit of angst building in the stadium because, again, we were doing, as Brendan Rodgers likes to say, we were changing the angle of attack. There was we got into a little bit of a mode of sideways passing, Carter Vickers getting on the ball and passing it back to Scales and back in. We're just kind of looking for a bit of space and whatnot, just waiting for it. But I don't think anybody saw this one coming, Terry. As I said earlier on, Hatate scored a great goal, but it wasn't even the best goal of the day because Carter Vickers was like, no, hold on a second. Hold my beer. I'm going to show you the best goal of the day. Incredible. We talk about him being a bit timid at times, but I didn't know he had this in his locker. My God, he absolutely unleashed all fury with that right foot. Caught everybody by surprise. And yeah, as I say, there was a wee bit of, not no needle, but as he said to fans, were like, come on, pick up the pace a little bit, and yeah, from the passing side to side. But no, he just waited, and it opened up. And again, you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle, and he just thought, I'm going to have a pop at this, and look what happened. Flew right in the top corner. Said to my mate next to me, I says, it reminded me of years ago we played Kilmarnock in a League Cup game, and Kieran Tierney scored a goal from about a similar distance where he just decided to go for it, and it just went right in the top corner. That goal today was insane. I caught everybody by surprise, no doubt about it. So, obviously sensational goal. Try talk me through that one, Terry, when you saw that go in, and like how Carter Vickers, where did that come from?
It reminded me of one even way further back than Kieran Tierney. There was one Tony Mowbray scored against Aberdeen at home that was very, very similar to that as well, where we mentioned this last week, where teams have had success against us in recent weeks is allowing the two centre-backs to have the ball and then cutting off the options for them, because they are reluctant to carry the ball forward, and the amount of opportunity Carter Vickers and whoever's playing beside him get to go forward and get into that position, and there's a real reluctance there from them to do it. And he doesn't seem to be the most comfortable when he gets into the opposition's half. But we've seen it today earlier than that, where Scales got into a good position and had a good shot as well, and Carter Vickers just got forward. So I don't know if there's been, it's maybe just coincidence, or if that's been something the manager's talked about, that if teams are cutting off all of the options, you two guys then need to take on responsibility and you need to go and make things happen. And he did. He crept forward and he crept forward and he crept forward, and then he decided, to hell with this, I'm going to have a go here. And the camera angle was brilliant on it, because the minute it left his foot, there was only one place it was gone, and it was right into the top corner. And then I think, he sort of just turns away quite calm, but I think some of his teammates' reactions
I saw it on the big
screen. How unexpected that it was.
I saw AJ with he was like that, and then as one of the angles they showed on the big screen, as it hits the back of the net, you see Adam Eder's like following the ball in, and he goes like he can't believe it at all. But because Adam Eder thinks, I can't even score a goal like that.
Maybe it's something they've seen in training with a very different outcome on a regular basis. But no, really, really good goal. It's not the type of goal that Celtic score, really, is it? It's not a goal that you see very often. And probably we're more used to it when we had the likes of Van Dijk and guys like that who were really, really comfortable on the ball, and were comfortable when they got into that last third, and were really keen to have efforts on goal and things like that. But definitely unexpected from Carter Vickers. But it just goes to show you, if you buy a ticket, sometimes you win the raffle.
That's it. See, we don't shoot enough. The amount of times I see games where it opens up right in front of them and they still look for an extra pass. But as I say, early in the season, it just felt like it was something we were adapting this season with what Callum McGregor was doing, but somewhere along the way that's just stopped. So it's been quite refreshing today to see two people just having a pop from distance and just test the keeper, because even if the keeper sometimes saves it, they might fumble it right to Maeda's feet or whatever striker's waiting to put it in the net. It could ricochet off a post and come back out again. could stick it in the net. So it's just like, have a go instead of, this whole, like, the whole ball retention, try to score the perfect goal. It's like, it feels like sometimes it's just an extra pass just for the sake of it at times, but no, it was, it probably had fans off their seat, those 2 goals today, and say Carter Vickers one, Jesus Christ, and his teammates are even in shock at it. That just shows you how extraordinary it was.
Here's the thing as well, Phil, going forward, if other teams, if their tactics are to try and stop the ball getting to McGregor or to Engels or Hatate or
Terry, have you frozen?
to the
Or have I
wingers,
frozen?
and Carter Vickers then is coming forward the ball. I was gone there for a few seconds.
Yeah, I thought you'd frozen, or have I frozen, but you seem to be back.
No, we both. I think we both
froze.
went.
Carter Vickers' goal knocked us into another time zone or something. I don't know.
All I was saying is other teams might think about twice just about giving him that much space when he's coming forward, because they'll see that he's able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's again, we're going to have games, where it's like last week, where there's 10 men behind the ball. It's stodgy. They're just cutting off all your passing options. So if it's something that's in these guys' locker, you may just need to do that from time to time. That's one of the things that's so frustrating about last week, where again, it was still like looking for the perfect goal, try to pass it into the net. And it's like, sometimes you've just got to go for it, if it opens up for you. But say today, we certainly made it count. And even the 4th goal, the build-up play to that out wide, fantastic. Arnie Engels was in amongst that last week. Obviously, I pondered what is Arnie Engels' best role? What is he actually good at? He does have his flashes. I think this was a game today where he did have a few great moments as well. I still not quite sure what his strongest part on the park is in terms of what you want him to do, but he was heavily involved in this goal. Obviously, the build-up. And then Rio Hatate gets his second one. Obviously, it zips across the goal. It's a bit of I don't see not really a stramash in the middle, but obviously he gets the ball under control, turns and sticks it in the back of the net. But again, what was that all in 20-something minutes? What a start when you think about it. And of course, at that stage, you're thinking, as Russell has predicted many times, going back to the Angie era, we're going to hit somebody for 10 one day. And at that point, I'm thinking, so could today be the day? Could this be the day? Are we going to hit 10? But yeah, even before we even get to talk about the rest of the game, but that 4th goal, I say it was, even though it was probably the tamest one out of them all, in terms of like, what I say, maybe the tapping, I suppose, in Maeda. But compared to the other 2 from Carter Vickers and Hatate's first one, the build-up play can't be ignored. It was fantastic, Terry.
No, it was excellent, and as you say, Engels involved, Forrest and Johnson involved down the right, and I thought it was great feet and great composure by Hatate. No, another really good goal, and as you say, then you're only halfway through the first half at this point, and you're starting to think, where's this going to go now? And unfortunately, from that point onwards, it kind of petered out a little bit. Got a little bit flat after that. I thought we were unlucky. Then I know we go on and we concede the goal. I thought it was a poor goal to concede, to be honest. A high ball into the left back area, and the guy's able to get it down. I don't think it's a shot. I think it's a cross.
It's a cross, 100%.
I think it's a goalkeeper. You've probably got to be disappointed to be beaten from out there. And then we go on. We think we've got a 5th. Hatate should have scored. Then Maeda did, but we were pulled back for the tiniest margin of offside I think you'll ever see.
Somebody sent me a screen grab of it. I've only just seen it. I got back. I'm looking at it right now on my phone, and it is absurd in how close it is. I'm like, can you really deem that offside? I know there's a movement going on just now, I think, for UEFA or FIFA that Arsene Wenger's heading up about offsides now becoming more. There has to be clear light between the defender and the attacker, because this is ridiculous in terms of like they've drawn the lines in, and it's like the shoulders. They're judging it on the shoulders or the arms rather. And it's like, well, first of all, one, the player cannot score with this part of his body. He can't score with his arms. So I always feel like it's quite ridiculous that can be deemed offside, a part of the body you're not allowed to legally score with. But I'm looking at the new and I'm just like, how have they honestly went with that? So, because what I thought in the stadium was Hitati kind of goes round the goalkeeper and then Maeda puts it in the net. I thought it was there when the offside was, but it seems like it's in the build up to that. But yeah, a bit of a strange one that we're looking at it. It's so tight.
Yeah, Russell's email address is crooked arm, something crooked arm. This was more like crooked line, I think. But nah, listen, 4-1 at half time, 5-1 at half time doesn't make a massive amount of difference. But yeah, just disappointing when you know they've scored and then you think you've got another one. But hey ho.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the rest of the game, and I was saying at the top of the show that I don't know if you've seen this week, right? It was after the Manchester derby. Gary Neville had a bit of a rant about football in general nowadays, about the way things are, how players are like robots nowadays, and it's all about ball retention, and it's basically having a dig at Pep Guardiola. I think he just blames Pep Guardiola for everything, but you think about a lot of managers want to play that style that Pep does, and and I can't disagree with it. To be fair, a lot of things in football have the soul's been ripped out of it, and wingers not getting to the byline, and defenders not slide tackling, and it's all about passing it for the back, and goalkeepers have to be good with their feet, all this sort of stuff. But one of the things as well is, and Brendan Rodgers has actually been giving us a lot of clues about this along the way. He's had a few moans now about he feels the number of games we're playing is too much. I know he's brought up a few times he's not happy that the winter break get taken away. So I feel what we saw today was just, again, Brendan just like, we're playing that many games of football that he's just sort of told them, we don't need to go crazy here, which is a bit, I say, from the fan point of view, if you're a paying fan, you want to be entertained from start to finish, but it just felt like after half time, the first half an hour, 35 minutes for that game was electrifying, but then after that was a case of, unless Kilmarnock go and score again, we don't need to go up the gears here. I think if Kilmarnock had made it 4-2, Terry, I think Brendan would have said, right, go get another one, just to be sure. But it did feel like in the second half, it was just a case of just contain them, just keep the ball. Every so often, we might have had the pot shot. I know Andy Engels hit the crossbar from one, and then tried it about 30 seconds later from the same angle and stuck it into Rosette. There was a couple of moments. I mean, Nicholas Kuhn came on. He had a fantastic moment where he just flicked the ball past the defender at the byline. He kept it in and then he squared it across the goal. He looked a wee bit lively. But yeah, the second half, there just wasn't really much going on. But one guy that did get, and I'll bring this comment up that we need to talk about, is NM's highlighted this. With a great performance in the first half hour, and then the typical drop-off for the rest of the game. Can we address Adam Eder? Could he be off if we sign a decent striker? He's dreadful. I did say today, with the way the goals are flying in that first half, I said to my mate, I said, surely today Adam Eder has to get in on the act. He has to get there, get in a goal or two, because they're flying in. But yeah, the game just kind of petered out. And then after that, and one of the things that just annoys me about Eder is you're meant to be this big burly number 9, big prototypical centre forward. He spends most of the time dropping deep and making runs into the channels out wide, and I'm like, just stay in and around the 18-yard box. But he always seems to put himself in positions where it's going to be you're going to do really well to score from that. I don't know if, again, it's instructions for the manager or it's just part of his style or how he plays. But yeah, I was quite surprised to see Eder not get in on the act. He didn't even look like scoring at any point today, despite, I say, that first half being electrifying. But yeah, how are you feeling about Eder in general at the moment, Terry?
I don't know, if you think about his contribution in the last 6 months of last season, you can pinpoint key games where he was, or he played an integral role in us getting the points. But if you think over this season, there's probably only two. There's a bit of luck that he engineered against Young Boys, and then there's his performance against Aston Villa. And apart from that, it's really difficult to think of any game where he's really had any kind of influence at all. And it kind of feels like he's now the player I thought he was going to be whenever we brought him in on loan. but he then won me over with his performances. But now I'm starting to think perhaps I was right. I know Samaras was a real fan's favourite, but I always thought Samaras always impressed when there was a contract to be won. And it almost feels like Adam Eder came in those 6 months, and let's make no bones about it, he definitely was an influence in us getting getting the league title done last year, but it feels as if he's regressed on what he did last season, and he's not anywhere near the same level that he was. And I think he can't say he hasn't had. I mean, he would have been thinking, Kyogo goes, that's me in for the rest of the season. And that's probably what should have happened. But he's then allowed another player who's not been playing centre forward for the best part of 3 years to come in and become the number one as well. It will be an interesting one during the summer. Do we try and cut our losses on Ida? Does he fancy hanging about if he's not a guaranteed starter? I was a little concerned about the manager's comments where he was talking about the natural cycle for a player coming to Celtic being 3 or 4 years, because that immediately makes me think Hatate, Maida, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers. They're the players that have been in for round about that time period. And I wouldn't be surprised if Maida moves on this summer. And then again, does that mean Ida becomes your number one, or do you go out and you get another number one? Do we land this guy that we've been trying to get for 2 years, and then him and Ida battle it out? I don't know. It'll be an interesting one just to see how it plays out. But he's definitely not pulling up any trees, Phil.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. And the thing is about Ida, that little purple patch he had. We talk about Kuhn maybe having a purple patch. I don't know if that was, but for Ida this season, that little spell that he had just after Kyogo left, the Aston Villa game was in there, and I think there's like 4 or 5 domestic games in a row where he scored, and you're like, this is it. Now he's been told, you are the man. You're literally the only out-and-out centre forward left in the team, so this is your place now. And yeah, then just seem to peter out, and yeah, it's mad that Daisen Maeda has not even a natural striker essentially. I know he plays there for the Japanese national team, but he's been a winger for the majority of his career, and yeah, he's came in and he's absolutely smashing it. He looks such a danger in front of goal compared to the Maeda of 2-3 years ago at Celtic. Whenever the idea of him being composed and being dangerous in front of goal, he was usually a danger to us in front of goal because there's some of the stuff he would do. But nowadays it's like he is the main man, and Ademida, what's he thinking now? Like, I've saw off Kyogo, and now I've got another striker to try and see off. So today was an interesting one. I mean, David Scully says that Ida, the big man, needs to be stronger. There was one in the first half, remember, he chased a ball with one of the Kilmarnock defenders, and again, he just got so easily breezed off the ball, and it just went out for a goal kick. The ball just ran on for a goal kick, and again, you're like, the size of you should be able to compete with these stuff. I remember last season against Kilmarnock, a ground that we struggled at, Rugby Park, and of course, the night we won the league title, it was at Rugby Park. We beat them 5-0. Yeah. We seemed to exercise goals. And that was one of his standout displays. Obviously, people remember the cup final, right, and what he did there with the last-minute goal against Rangers. And obviously, he got a couple of late goals against Hibs and against Motherwell. But his absolute standout performance last season on that loan spell was that night at Kilmarnock. He was brilliant the way he was battering that Kilmarnock defence. A team of total cloggers on a plastic pitch. Some of the runs he was doing at times, picking up the ball in the middle of the park and running at the Kilmarnock defence, they were totally panic-stricken. He scored that night. He set up, I think, James Forrest for a goal as well. He was heavily involved. It was like, that's the Ademida that we wanted to get. But yeah, I agree with you. You're now kind of worried after all the chasing of him and spending that money that what we're getting right now, is what we were going to get. And it's going to have to be a big pre-season, I think, for him. I mean, I don't think they're going to cut their losses yet. I know earlier on the comment from NM says, do we get rid of him? I think he'll still be here next season, but we're going to definitely sign another striker in the summer. And will that be the boot up the arse that Ida needs? Will he be further down the pecking order? We'll wait and see, Terry.
That game you're talking about against Kelly, unless I'm mistaken, the front three was Forrest, Ida, and Maida, and I think they had a similar sort of blitz of goals in the first half. All three of them had scored in the first half that night, but yeah. he was involved in everything that night. I think he just needs to score. I think he needs to score a big goal. I know he was involved in that one against Young Boys, but he didn't know an awful lot about it, let's be honest. But he needs to score like a winner in the Cup semi or the Cup final again, something just to ignite his Celtic career and get things going again.
Yeah, because he's very much a guy that backs himself. I mean, you probably saw his comments for the latest international break. He scored for Ireland against Bulgaria, and gave it that celebration to silence the critics. And again, he definitely backs himself. I've seen like wee snippets and that from interviews and that where he has a sort of an aura about him where he knows, what he's capable of. So it's like he needs to show it on a more consistent level. And I agree with you. A wee goal in the semi-final or the final would go a long way. And obviously we do have one more game against them coming up as well at Ibrox, and we kind of need to put a performance in, regardless of, the league title will be won by then. This ain't going to be no dead rubber, this one, because after the performances we've had against them, we need to now go and show a good performance against them. So again, if he pops up for a winner at Ibrox in a few weeks' time, then again that'll go a long way to get fans
100%.
back on side.
We need to lay down a marker in that game. Everything points towards this being a really, really successful season. But if you've lost to them 3 times, it'll still be tinged with a little bit of angst that that's becoming a problem fixture. And again, eyes towards next season. I think you want to go there, completely lay down a marker. I mean, I don't think they've won a game Ibrox since the start, the first couple of days of February or something. Can you imagine if we're the first team that they beat since then at home, after all the teams that have been there and not conceded? It definitely does become. Do you remember the one where the job was done under Ange and we went there and lost? I don't think this can happen this time, because it was different then, because we'd still dominated that fixture in the earlier games this season, whereas we haven't in this fixture. We've lost the last 2 and been pretty poor in the last 3. So it's still one. Whenever the split fixtures are announced, it'll be the first one that people look for. But I think that's us ready for the split now, isn't it? So
that's all the fixtures are done. So right now, the final set of fixtures are going on. Obviously, tomorrow Aberdeen play Rangers. So we don't know, is between Motherwell, Hearts, and St Mirren for the final place in the top 6. But I fully expect we're going to go to Pittodrie. Obviously, we're going to Ibrox. I think it'll be Tannadice that we go to. And if Hearts, for example, finish in the top 6, it'll be Hearts, and Hibs will be the visitors to Celtic Park. It'll probably be an away game, then a home game, 2 aways, and then we'll finish on a home game for Trophy Day. That's probably how it will come out. But the fixtures will be announced probably midweek, I'd imagine, at some point, because all the fixture number 33 is happening this weekend. So they'll have the bottom half and the top half decided.
Well, listen here, there was another moment of quality and another excellent goal. Anthony Ralston's goal.
Of course, right at the end.
Yeah, again, good for him to get a little bit of game time. I think he genuinely has played more for Scotland than he has for Celtic this season, and I thought he looked bright when he came on. Phil, he got forward. There was a moment. There was a moment just before the one where he scored, where he was chasing the ball out to the touchline, and he went to run back the way, and then quickly turned and got a crossover. I thought it was an excellent goal. Hatate with a really inventive pass. And his first touch brings him in onto his left, but he wants to get it back onto his right, so he cuts back onto the right and fizzes it into the corner. Excellent goal. And again, if you put yourself in Ralston's position, he seems to just be happy to be at Celtic and be that backup and come in when he's needed and be ready to make a contribution. And he hasn't really played an awful lot since that season where it was kind of him and Juranovic game about kind of thing, and his numbers that season were excellent. And I genuinely think if he was first choice right back and playing every single week, I think his numbers would be impressive. He just finds himself again a bit like Taylor. He finds himself popping up in lots of areas where you just don't expect him to be. But he's second fiddle, but a good second option for us to have. And funny enough, young lad came on at right back for Killie, who I thought was somebody I would have liked Celtic to sign whenever he was at Aberdeen. The young fella that went to Liverpool,
Calvin Ramsey.
Did he go for 5 million or something like that?
Yeah, Calvin Ramsey. He's on loan at Kilmarnock.
I thought he could have been somebody that could have been a good option for us, but again, he's just going to be another one of those kids, a lot of promise, and he probably ends up with a career fizzling out down in the Championship or something like that.
Yeah, a few years ahead of him, getting loaned out to different clubs for, won't kick a ball for Liverpool's first team. It's not like the
Nah, no
Ben Doak
chance.
one,
No
but Ben
chance.
Doak seems to have broke the mould. But yeah, the regarding the Ralston thing, it is funny that he's played more games for Scotland this season than he has for Celtic. He also got into the Scotland team for the Euros, played every minute of the Euros last season as a right back, and he's kept his position as Scotland's national right back as well, all through the Euro Nations League games he's played this season. And yeah, in terms of games for Celtic, minutes for Celtic, it's very, very minimal right now. But yeah, he took his goal well, and it was a brilliant first time pass from Hatate. Yeah, that wee dink over the top, just, not even. It's quite funny because he's looking away from Ralston as well. He's got his back to the goal, and just that sort of intuition, he just knows it's coming into him, just to ping it right away. And Ralston obviously gets it under control, bamboozles the defender, puts him on his backside as well, and yeah, just zips it in at the far post. Although I'm pretty sure Nicholas Kuhn was sliding in there trying to poach it. If I'm right, I'm pretty sure it was Kuhn. There was definitely a Celtic player was sliding in at the back post just in case it
I
missed.
thought it was Jota, but it might have been Kuhn, and
Yeah, yeah.
they were probably offside if they'd gone in and
I
stole it.
know.
It would have been offside, I think.
That'd have been a travesty. But the one of the stories then that I wanted to home in on was Paul Bernardo didn't get on. We brought on obviously Sloop, we brought on Jota, we brought on Nicholas Kuhn, we brought on Tony Ralston, we brought on Luke McCown. That was our 5 subs today. And last week I was obviously bamboozled that Bernardo didn't get any time and the midfield was all over the place. And last night on talking to Johnny and Liam, I'd kind of convinced myself that maybe Brendan's mentality last week was if we were winning comfortably in McDermott, we would have brought him on. I know the pitch was sort of criticised. It was very dry. Maybe he just thought, I don't want to bring back. Then Brendan sees Bernardo every day in training. He'll know what his fitness levels are. But my mentality is, well, if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you're probably fit enough to get some time because you could be called upon at any point. But yeah, today we're winning comfortably. And again, Bernardo doesn't come on at any point. And I think he could feel pretty hard done by Terry. He really can.
Yeah, it's a wee bit of a head scratcher because obviously he has been out, but the only way for him to build up match fitness is for him to come on and get game time. And that's 2 games there in a row where we've made all our subs and he hasn't got a sniff at all. And you can't really see a scenario where he comes in and starts next week either. There's no real way that's going to happen unless there's injuries during the week. It's strange because the manager, you would imagine, does fancy him. He does rate him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have spent the whole summer, trying to get him in on a budget deal or whatever. So yeah, strange. And to be fair, whenever he's played, he maybe always hasn't stood out, but he's never had an awful game really that you can think of. There's not one where you can think, he's had an absolute mare there. And if you think back to last year, do you remember that run where he only seemed to play in big games,
Yeah.
Champions League and things like that? And then he sat out a lot of the domestic games, but he was always brought in for the big games. So again, a strange one. It'll be interesting. Maximum 7 games left for the rest of the season. What part does he play? I'm certain when he came to Celtic, on a permanent deal, he's envisaged playing a lot more than he has done.
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember just before Arnie Engels officially signed, or no, Engels had signed, but he didn't start the first Celtic Rangers game of the season. Bernardo did. Bernardo was playing like a man possessed that day because it's like, right, I've got somebody that's coming in to take my place. I need to remind the manager how good I can be, and he was excellent that day at hassling the Rangers midfield, closing them down, winning the ball. Another player who was actually brilliant, funny enough, in that game was Liam Scales. He played well in that game because Austin Trusty had just signed, so it was almost like the players were motivated by the competition. But Bernardo, I thought he played well. In fact, he had a wee run about that time where he was getting regular game time, and then we played Dortmund, and he was terrible. Everybody was terrible against Dortmund. And then since then, it's always been just wee drips and drabs with Bernardo. It's always been mostly Engels, Hatate, Callum McGregor. It's probably the most common midfield three that we've picked this season. If you were to get like the stats together of what is the most common midfield three that Brendan's picked, I think it's going to be that McGregor, Engels Hatate. But as he going into today, after the way the midfield performed last week, most people were like, oh, well, surely Engels or Hatate drop out, Bernardo comes in, get him some time get some minutes in the legs, and even if he doesn't start, again, we're winning comfortably today, but no sign of him. So yeah, I do wonder, where does he come in at this stage? Because it's such a crucial stage now of the season. You want to try and get him up to speed. But then again, I mean, Liam Scales just had a wee bit of a layoff, didn't have any minutes in the legs, if you want to say that, and he came in today. So again, maybe surprises, Terry. You know, he might get thrown in against somebody in due course. Maybe once the league's officially won, maybe Bernardo will get like a run of starts, building up to the cup final, giving him a chance to maybe get his name in the cup final starting 11 as well, because the boy deserves at least a chance to, you know, stake his claim for that, because if we get there, everyone's going to want to finish the season in that showpiece final. So you'd like to think that if we qualified, we've won the league at that point, you've got maybe 3 league fixtures to go. Give Bernardo 3 starts in the bounce just to see if he can, how he does.
But even then, they're not games that he's came here to play, and he hasn't come to play in dead rubbers. He's come to play in Champions League games and the big league games. So I've no doubt he'll be a bit disappointed with how things have played out. But then the other side of it is it's up to him. It's up to him to force his way in and when he gets his opportunity to take it with both hands. And again, you know, it's not really much different to Luke McCowan. Luke McCowan's come from being the main man in Dundee, where every attack probably went through him, and he's now only getting scraps at the end of games. And that's the challenge you take on when you come to play for Celtic. And you know, the manager's got his 3 first choice players, and they'll be the 3 that play next week, certainly to start the game, barring an injury. And it's up to those other guys. They need to find a way to force their way in, or you know, it's on them essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. So obviously next week it will be St Johnstone Sunday Cup semi-final. Obviously last week they did beat us. I did say at the end of last week's P.M.P, you know, what will St Johnstone take from that win last week? Can they use it? Essentially, obviously the dynamic is different now for the semi-final. It's at Hampden. It's on a much bigger pitch. So you'd like to think that if it's a game where Celtic it's a bit of a slog, we can stretch the game a little bit, because again, the massive pitch that St Johnstone aren't used to, because McDermott, the size difference and whatnot. I think next week we will turn up and turn them over, because I just feel like this team needs some kind of jeopardy, something to be on the line like that. And I feel like what we did today, after the abysmal performance last week, with the criticism, we turned up in style, and I think next week they'll go out and right the wrongs of what happened to McDermott. And yeah, I would not be surprised if next week plays out similar to this game today, where we get off to a rip roaring start, and then just a case of, well, just conserve the energy. We don't need to go up the gears. If we're 3 ahead, 4 ahead, we'll just hold on to the ball, let St Johnstone chase us a wee bit. It's up to them to come and get the ball off us. It seems to say kind of plays into just the way football is nowadays. It's all about conserving energy, too many games and all that. But yeah, that's I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it plays out next week, Terry.
Yeah, I think it could play out similar, Phil, to whenever Aberdeen came to Celtic Park and got a draw off us, and then we just went and absolutely battered them in the League Cup. I think it could play out similar to that. I'm just having a quick check there. St Johnstone are behind at Tannadice, so they haven't kicked on from last week in terms of their survival attempts. So unless they get a result today, that puts them in a really, really poor position. So they'll be up for the Cup semi-final, and they'll be buoyed by the fact that they got that result against us. But I think it's a good fixture for us. It's good that it's come so quickly after one of our most disappointing performances. And again, I would be hoping for and looking for something similar to what we did against Aberdeen, just that real statement performance.
Yeah, definitely was on the subject of the current results. St Mirren currently sit in 6th place right now with the way the results are. They are 2-1 up against Ross County. Hearts and Motherwell are drawing 0-0, so they are negating each other. And St Mirren, as it stands at the moment, with about 25 minutes to go in the fixtures, would finish in 6th place. So yeah, St Mirren would be one of our home games then, because I think we've played them twice at I'm going to say Love Street. I always say Love Street. I think we've played them twice in Paisley this year. But either way, I've said this before about the split and why one of the many problems that come with the split. The SPFL will always cater to Celtic and Rangers and make sure that they both get 19 home games and 19 away games at the expense of one of the other teams. And these teams have got season ticket holders as well that pay for 19 home games. But they'll if a team has to come to Celtic Park for a third time this season, then they'll just do that, because it's always Celtic and Rangers are the most vocal voices to the SPFL and the biggest clubs, so they will cater to this. So it'll be St Mirren and Hibs will be the 2 home games, and it'll be Dundee United, Aberdeen, Rangers will be the 3 away games. But yeah, St Mirren could be the surprise one, because that was what I thought it was between Motherwell and Hearts. I didn't realise St Mirren were even in the reckoning until I saw it in the news last night. But yeah, as it stands right now, it could be, unless there's a winner in the Motherwell Hearts game, but they're currently goalless, so keep your eye on that one. But yeah, in terms of, say, everything, Dan, we've covered everything, really. I know you're heading out as well, Terry, so we've done 50 minutes, so I feel like we've covered everything that needs to be covered in the game. First half an hour, fantastic. 60 minutes after that, it was all right. I suppose it was fine. They got the job done. We got a 5-1 victory. Can't really grumble with that. And now it's all eyes tomorrow on Pittodrie. So, Terry, I usually call Liam the wise man, but right now you're going to be the wise man. How's that going to go tomorrow? Are we going to be the champions this time tomorrow afternoon with Rangers losing at Pittodrie? Even if they draw, I think you'll be, 15 points behind, but the goal difference is something absurd right now that's not going to get overturned. So will Rangers falter at Pittodrie, and will we be celebrating the title this time tomorrow?
Anything I've seen online from Rangers supporters, they're all hoping that they could beat tomorrow, or because they just want it over and done with. They want it out of the way. They don't want them to put out a strong team tomorrow, because they want to keep their players for during the week and things like that. It's one of those. I don't really care. I would love today to be the day when we get over the line, and guys like you and Mark and all the other boys that go week in, week out, going there and seeing the team win the league. Ultimately, I'm not really that bothered. I don't even know if I'll tune into it or not. It's a tough fixture for them, and I think they will be playing with Thursday night in mind. I think Barry Ferguson. Well, the other side of it is, he can't afford to take any game, at anything less than 100% seriousness. But they probably will have Thursday night in mind, and tomorrow will be a bit of an afterthought. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Rangers, and just keep things sort of boiling over into the split, and then the pressure comes on the guys that are sorting out the fixtures to try and work out where they can position a certain game, that it's not going to be a powder keg.
I think it'll be fixture number 3. I think they'll go with that one, because the 4th fixture is always a midweek fixture, so they won't do that. I think they'll put it as number 3. So I think it'll go Tannadice, then we'll play at home. Now, don't get me wrong, if we go up to we play our next game, which is away, say Rangers do win tomorrow, and we lose at Tannadice or Pittodrie, wherever we go, then it would roll over to the next week, and then we could win it at home in theory, because that'll definitely be a home game, but we want it done as quickly as possible. As unfortunate as it can be, but there might only be a couple of thousand fans, depending on what ground we're in. At the end of the day, as long as we've won the title, is what it is. I'm sure there'll be another street party in the Gallagate, as there has been for the last few years. I don't go to them personally, but I know thousands of fans like to gather at the Gallagate, essentially, down at the Barras, and party there. I'm sure there'll be another one organised. We'll definitely get to celebrate it, and there could be a treble as well at the end of the season, so there's plenty to look forward to between now and then. So yeah, I guess we'll wrap up. Also, to answer what's going on in the chat, I saw at the corner of my eye, Kierdo and Stephen Mitzi were asking this. No, Bhoycie is not getting forced out. At the start of the show, as I said it last night, and I said it last week, Bhoycie's internet connection is up at Swanee now. It's not working too well. It's not stable enough to really guarantee he'd be able to do a full show. So you might end up with Terry stuck by himself. So that's why he's got me as his assistant manager, pretty much. That's why I'm here, to come in and fill in these ones. So Bhoycie is not getting forced out in anything at all. He's just his internet connection's just shite, really. That's it. So he's got an order in with whoever his provider is, if it's BT or whatnot, and he's waiting for that to get installed to get a more stable connection. So no, there's no mutiny going on. I'm not trying to force a kind of coup here and take over. I'm just here to fill in when he's not here to do the show. So yeah, that's the only thing that's different. So yeah, but we've done another P.M.P, another one in the book. So onwards to next week to Hampden in the sun, maybe. Hopefully it will be. I hear the rain's maybe going to be coming for the next week, which isn't particularly good. But invited over St Johnstone, get ourselves into that final, and then yeah, we've got a final to look forward to. See a potential treble on the table. Terry, it's been a joy to be on with you again.
Yes,
It's been good to come on and have a wee blather about that one. Go and enjoy the rest of your days, whatever you're getting up to. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, as before the rain comes back. And yeah, we're almost there. So now it's over to Pittodrie. It's over to Aberdeen. Good luck to the Dons tomorrow. So hopefully they can get a wee result there. And yeah, never know. Maybe this time tomorrow night we'll be cracking open the champagne. So get it on ice because you just don't know what's round the corner. Thanks again for watching, folks. Hit the subscribe button and the like button, all that good stuff on the way out. And we shall catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.